So welcome everyone to the fourth installment of the AI and Life Matters seminar at the Johannesburg Institute for Advanced Study under the leadership of Professor Victoria J. Collis Butelezzi. Today we are going to dive into a big question, a big philosophical, political question, which is the question of ethics. What does it mean to talk about ethics of AI ethics, the ethical implications of the development of AI? And I'm going to try to show that question of the ethics of digital technology can everybody hear? Yes, good, because someone Michelle cannot hear. Maybe it's your audio, Michelle. So that question of ethics is at the core of the question of governance. I will try to show how, by going back to the first fundamental question of what is the society we want and what kind of governance do we need, this question responds to the ethical challenges that we touched upon, which has to do with digital technologies and especially artificial intelligence pushing the boundaries of life resources and of life matters in general, whether it's human and non-human. And I'm going to try to expose some of the core debates in the field, so you might be able to situate yourself in your own discipline in regards of these debates. So as you maybe know, I work in philosophy, so I am going to have a bias. My bias is that the question of ethics is a fundamental political philosophical question. So I'm going to try to be as concrete as possible, and if I am not too concrete, the engineers, social scientists, educators in the room, please let me know if I am really going on a tangent, which is really possible given how my brain functions, and also because it's also this opportunity of a seminar. I want to be able to think together around those questions that really touch everyone, whether we are studying, producing research, working, having kids, being in a relationship, wanting to build a home. All of this life matters are now mediated by technological development. So for this session in particular, I'm gonna draw on a chapter that I wrote that is forthcoming in a few weeks, and so I will be reading a bit. But I will start by saying that artificial intelligence do not need new shiny ethics that will magically or suddenly succeed where other ethical frameworks failed. And that if we do not learn from past failure in the realm of ethical governance, then we are doomed to fail with this challenge. So instead of saying, oh, we need a new ethics for a new AI, I'm going to say, how about AI is an opportunity to unveil or reveal how a hyper-industrial society carry values that are ethically problematic and politically dangerous for the vast majority of us. So you will see I am quite critical of the ethical AI trend. Not only because they have kind of forgotten the philosophers in the debate, but mostly because they have forgotten a lot of the majority of the people directly impacted by that technology, whether it's on the question of programming life, modulating life, or extracting resources. So, as I've said in that seminar, really what AI is revealing is that it's a technology that puts both the Earth resources on a deadline and our societal model on a deadline. So it is within that framework that we might want to aspire to thinking a new ethics that is able to respond to the challenges of earthly, planetary resources and systemic structures of domination and injustices. So I'm gonna quickly say that there are maybe three ethical challenges that could be summarized this way. AI, one of the ethical problems of AI is that it is a technology that is based on hierarchy, meaning that this data will be given priority over that data, for instance. So it is a technology that cannot not do without hierarchy, the hierarchization of data. And that hierarchy also goes with opposition, meaning this data matters and this data doesn't, much like this life matter and this one doesn't. So you already see that the ethical challenge is the way in which it produces a societal framework based on hierarchy and opposition. And a final aspect of the ethical problem of AI, and I'm doing a quick, snippet, and then I will unpack within the different debates. One problem of artificial intelligence, it situates itself within what has been called big data ideology. And big data ideology, hi Marie. Big data ideology is an understanding of the subject as an absolute entity, as if a subject, human, non-human subject, could be captured in its entirety through numbers. So it's a morphing of life into calculable, programmable numbers. So a technology that is fueled by hierarchy and opposition, and that capture the subject into an absolute entity. So those are kind of the principle that we might need to acknowledge in order to understand how AI serves now as a catalyst for hopefully unveiling our capitalist-driven technological system. So finally, if we say hierarchy, opposition, and absolute entity, we're talking about the values that the technology reproduces in its function, deployment, and design and usage. But once we've said that it might be how to bypass the ethical framework. So in a nutshell, the ethical framework of AI can be divided in two aspects. And again, I'm proposing this because I'm very critical of it, but I want to offer maybe an overview prior to criticizing or offering a possibility of a different view. AI ethics is divided between prescriptive AI and normative AI. So prescriptive AI is really taking ethics and the value, transparency, fairness, good AI, as the prescription that should be followed in order to develop a technology. So we have a lot of the technology should be this, should be that, and this is not really a framework that is ready to engage in its own reevaluation. So a prescriptive analysis of technology. Oh, technology should be good. We are not questioning the good. It's just good AI, good AI for society. A prescriptive dimension of technology and a normative, where norms are being produced out of a priori framework, and that is a way to ascribe the tendencies that the normative tendencies that are embedded in the system. So for example, when we have artificial moral agent, which are technologies designed to make moral decision, then there is a call to make sure that they follow certain norms. So certain norms of border control, or certain norms of law warfare, or certain norms of ecological standards. So we have a prescriptive, the AI should, and the normative, this is how, how technology can be deployed. And what I found very, very interesting in a lot of the literature that is coming from the global north, mostly Europe and in North America, is the way in which the responsible AI, the human values that should be respected in AI, or the good AI society, are not at all offering a definition of what is good, of what is transparency, of what is fairness, and so thankfully there are a lot of wonderful scholars from different research institutes, independent research institutes that not only advocate to show that there is no technologies that are value neutral, but that are advocating for real embedded practices of technology. And that's something that we talked about when we talked about the community-rooted tools, when we talked about the question of who do we say we use or we deploy or we invent when we talk about the community dimension of technology. What I found quite distressing, and I really started working on this question of the ethics of AI sincerely because I did not understand why the articles I was reading and the debates I was listening to felt so unconvincing in terms of actionable result. It really felt like a bubble of a discourse, and it got me quite angry, to be honest, because when we talk about responsible AI, but we don't talk about the autonomous weapons being developed and deployed in warfare, I don't understand the dichotomy. I could not understand the dichotomy between ethics that seems so detached from practical reality. So I have started to say, and I'm not so sure it's quite correct, but it works a lot with, it works well with a teenager. If I have to talk with teenagers or with young people, I say, if the ethical problem of AI had a birthday, it will be on October 25, 2017, when the first humanoid received citizenship. Sophia, meaning the one who cultivates wisdom, was given citizenship in Saudi Arabia, a country where women hold significantly fewer rights than their male counterpart. And so in this moment, the problem of AI pierced the public consciousness and could not be ignored anymore. Robots, shadowed by their anthropomorphic projections, had appeared on the literary and imaginary stage long before, but in that moment, political and scientific radars were tuned in a new way as humanoids were given more than a human feel, a legal identity. Sophia, and that's the example and that's the dichotomy I want to talk about today. Sophia became at the same time a robot and a citizen. She was given citizenship, so she became a citizen. A person without a body, that's a robot with a legal entity, and an agent of meaning deprived of thought. So that's to me, that's an ethical question. We are facing a moment where in a country like Saudi Arabia, a robot can be given citizenship. So what does it mean for other citizens and non-citizens who do have a body and who are agents of thinking and sensing and feeling? And she started to perform a form of agency because she was given a function, a political and diplomatic function while being deprived of thought. So that moment to me is more it's poignant to be surrounded by pre-trained transformers, which ChatGPT is one, generative pre-trained transformers. But it's more compelling to me to ask, what do we do when facing moral challenges for a situation in which a robot that is a citizen in that country, for that country, is also a person without a body and an agent of meaning, without, deprived of thinking. Just earlier, a journalist asked me for my opinion around Elon Musk creating his own Wikipedia. He just launched a Wikipedia version that is fully AI generated. And it's fully AI generated, and it's the first version, it's starting with 885,000 articles, only AI generated. And at the moment, Wikipedia in English has millions, but it's translated in so many other languages. It's an open framework. It's a malleable framework. Wikipedia is based on shared and collaborative knowledge. And here we have an empire, Elon Musk empire, big tech empire, populating the space of the internet with content that is promoted as unbiased, while discrediting the collaborative peer-to-peer effort of Wikipedia as being warped and biased. That's also another ethical problem to me. Another ethical problem because it taps into not only the values and not only the norms, the normative frameworks that give forms to values, but the cultural relationship that is fundamental for the sustaining or the deployment of that kind of technological empire. Because if we can go in so many directions, so watch out for the tangent. But I believe it's very important to think about those technological developments as symptoms of an alienated culture, societal culture. So if we go back to Sophia, who is given citizenship, who is given the positionality of an agent in a country where women, non-robot women in flesh, have lower rights, then it is from within the cultural, societal framework that kind of technology can be deployed. So to me, again, AI do not need some shiny ethics that is gonna suddenly succeed where others have failed, such as the human rights ethics. I believe what is fundamentally needed now is a cultural revolution of the way in which we give credit to each other for the knowledge we have when we talk about Wikipedia, for the positionality and importance we have. I go back to the beginning of the seminar when I was saying, careful, AI is based on hierarchy and opposition. It manifests that because it's embedded in our culture. This dichotomy of hierarchy and opposition is so brilliantly described by Edward Said when he is saying this is so difficult to develop new epistemological framework out of a culture that is based on the opposition of one and another. This continuous dichotomy. So apparently, given the extensive readings that I've tried my best to do to try to write this thing, the normative and prescriptive framework of artificial intelligence ethics reside in two functions. One that is the value alignment problem, making sure that we are producing technology that are in line with our values. Values that in themselves have never apparently led to a governance that is uplifting those values. And when and that I'm making a critique of democratic values that have served as alibi. So now we have the question of responsibility and accountability central to debates on AI ethics to promote the value alignment problem, to make sure that technology is based on the values that we promote. But this is never gonna work because we are in a culture that takes the technical object, the technology as just instrument to go faster, to dominate nature / others. So it's always looking at the technology as an instrument as opposed to looking at the technology as a fundamental organ of the human that is never neutral, that is always transformative, and that is always informing who we become. That's something that I have worked on quite a lot, which is a technology encapsulate the informational trajectory of a society. So when we have a conversation around AI ethics in education, you cannot blame the kids using ChatGPT if education before ChatGPT had already been designed within a neoliberal framework to train kids to respond to prompts as opposed to learning skills, for instance. ChatGPT will not work if we didn't have the ground, the cultural ground. So it's a constant feedback loop. So to break that feedback loop, we need a much more rigorous ethical criticism. And that's why I kept saying in this seminar, we need a lot of us at the table. A lot of us. We need the engineers, we need the scientists, we need the social workers, we need the cultural workers, we need everyone who is concerned by those effects and consequences, as opposed to letting the ethical framework of AI decide on the normative or prescriptive value of where we have to go. It's a collective question. The ethical question is always a collective question that cannot be decided within an ascendant-descendant framework. So we have a value alignment direction in AI ethics, and we have a control problem. Namely, creating robots to perfectly control them. That's a very strange way to think about our relationship to technology. Hello, Victoria. Welcome. It's a very strange way to think about our relationship to technology within a control problem relationship, designing robots to fully control them. I think the problem is not that robots are uncontrollable. I think the problem is that they will always obey very, very dangerous orders. So it's not that robots are becoming uncontrollable. It's that we are producing robots that will never have the judgment capacity decision aspect embedded in them to say no. So again, now the hype is around whether AI is destroying job. That saddened me so much, because the problem is not that AI is destroying job, is that AI is destroying life. In the warfare, the autonomous agent being developed by the Israeli army and the automated bombing is destroying life. It's not destroying job. This is destroying life. In the workplace, the people being laid off, I don't know. Yes, but it's based on a policy. And AI is actually producing a lot of jobs that are extremely precarious, that are bypassing international laws, that are producing precarity at a standard that is completely against all the work effort of union rights for decades now. So it's not AI destroying jobs. AI is destroying skills. That is something I talked about 2 weeks ago, is that it is a automatic factory of deskilling, mass deskilling. That's an ethical problem. The value alignment problem of AI or the control problem of AI, to me, are alibis for not thinking about the urgency of AI. which is the way in which it is programming life and creating premature death. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. The way in which it is producing a precarious workforce by employing people that are no longer being hired to help the machine function, but they are being hired less than machines. They are treated less than machines. With the international cooperation of states, again, when you look at when you look at what's happening with the Kenyan workforce of Meta being exposed to highly traumatizing content, who are working under conditions that are extremely precarious, the workers of the click constantly moderating content on media platforms. It's not AI destroying job, is that we are facing a moment in the capitalist production that is unsustainable, completely unsustainable. But one of the ethical question is definitely the de-skilling of people. So what is it that we can do in a hyper-industrial society where the conditions of mediation are largely determined by technological advances, where technology mediates through algorithms, signs, and data the informational trajectory of a society? How can we affect the sensibilities of individuals differently if we are constantly exposed and using the same technologies that we criticize? That's another, to me, ethical question. The increased mediation of life by technological devices that we do not choose, meaning that we do not consent to all the operational dimension that they perform. And of course, the emergence of autonomous agents capable of making moral decisions further complicate the mediation between humans and technological systems, highlighting the need for ethical, cultural criticism that can reshape the interplay between cultural values and technical framework. So one of the questions is that we can decide to delegate further and further to those robots, agents deprived of thoughts, digital devices performing tasks for us. We can decide to further delegate in the name of going faster, being more productive, and all of that. Or we can decide to withdraw some of our agency, some of our power to act in order to do things differently. And that's where I believe we have so much power. I believe we have so much room to do things slightly differently than the way in which it has been marketed for us to use. As you have probably heard from what I'm saying, is that I do not believe in embedding moral competency in autonomous agents like robots I don't believe in implemented human-centered values in technology. To me, that would be reproducing a culture where I take the technology as just an instrument or a continuation of myself. No, technology are agents. They have the power to shape our environment beyond that which we delegate to them, beyond that which we do with them. So we can no longer continue to just simply have an ethical framework that is based on human values that will dictate the trajectory of the development of AI. It's on the contrary, it's within our cultural grounding that we can shape new relationship to the tool we use, because the tools we use are increasingly asking us to be passively using them. And so what will it mean to actively using them the way that it makes the most sense in the localities, in the subjectivities that shape us as different communities? So these art principles, accountability, responsibility, and transparency, to me, it lacks a fundamental critique of the culture where this technology have flourished. And maybe culture is no longer the right term under a capitalist worldview that annihilates culture, because culture, what it means is the capacity to cultivate practices and skills that gives flavors to daily life. I have a culture and I cultivate that culture and I share it, and it morphs into new practices and I learn other practices and it shapes into other possibilities. And that's what education is all about, right? The capacity to cultivate the skills. When Kai, you advocate for literacy, you advocate for a culture that gives autonomy. You don't advocate for a value and then that prescribes a practice, right? So it's what time is it?
Anaïs,
Yes,
Anaïs, yeah, can I maybe
please.
ask something? Maybe if we can go back to this idea of value, if you can maybe kind of unpack what it is that we're associating with value. Yes, there's the kind of non-neutrality of big data, big tech, the kind of seemingly ethical foundations of what we're receiving. But I'm just wondering if you can maybe draw us into something, some like unpack the kind of complexity of what lies in value and how value is also dissociated, you know, from particular kind of forms of life, I suppose I want to ask, and how kind of Sophie maybe becomes the alibi in what happens under our current condition. But it would be great if we can hear, I don't know, for me, I don't know about the others, but if I could hear something more about value and yeah, some discourse around that.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you. Please, yes, it's always wonderful to have questions at any time of the seminar. It's so within the realm of ethics, and that we inherit an understanding of ethics that is really coming from a global north framework. And that's why I was saying in AI ethics, the critique I'm going to develop is really a critique of that positionality, where the values such as transparency, responsibility, fairness, accountability, human, good, all of those values that are shaping the debate around AI ethics in most of the conferences, publication, online, in real life debates are not tapping at the core of the question, which is how do we define good AI or transparent AI or fair AI? Because values are not universal. I mean, if that's one of the problem is that the AI trends in technology and the political discourse around that trend is not in favor of deconstructing rigorously the framework, the cultural framework, the political framework, the economic framework on which it sits. And so it's where the problems of values come. A lot of wonderful professors are advocating for good AI, but I haven't understood yet what it means for them good. It's only if you look at critical cultural workers in technology who are carefully looking at the implication and consequences, who are saying what is good for one cannot be good for the other. So let's stop using empty value vessels that are not putting in action the so-called values that they name. And so in philosophy, the question of value cannot be dissociated from the question of norms. Because norms and values are often dictating the framework under which judgment, law, responsibility, governance is being performed. And so we see it with the human rights discourse. The discourse on human rights, where the question of human, from the question of human rights, apparently it has forgotten a lot of humanity. So that's why I'm very critical of the AI ethics debate. And I really pull out my hair writing this thing, because at the beginning I'm not fluent in ethics at all. I was not really that much interested, to be honest. I mean, yes, interested, but not able to respond. But I see a real dichotomy between the writers, scientists such as Timney Gebru, Latanya Sweeney, Joel Buawini, where those people, Alex Hanna, I mean, there are many who are saying the empty vessels of value ethics are not going to answer the real practical problems and urgency. And so they are more interested in what I will call an ethics in action, where the normative and prescriptive ethics are not denominators to qualify for ethics. What is an ethical act? I am more interested in what is an ethical act, because an ethical act is one that shapes the informational trajectory of a society. It's one that changes the course of possibilities. And an ethical act cannot be programmed. I mean, in a society like South Africa, where people have had to embody the fight to act on the value that they name being fundamental to their life, we have a completely different understanding of ethics than the one that is so removed from reality. That's why also that it's maddening to see those hundreds of thousands of billions. The money flow of AI is completely unbelievable. But it's as we move to reality as their value framework that they claim and that they name with that action. You know, this is like it's not ethics in action. It's not the meaning of ethic lies in action. It doesn't lie in values. And we can almost only qualify the meaning of ethics in the aftermath of its action, not in an a priori framework that dictates this is the value. And that's why I don't understand. I'm still baffled at how little, how do you say that? You know, how the dominant actors of our world are driven by so little consciousness around the possibility that there is in using technology so differently than the capitalist worldview that we are trapped in. Because we could do so much. I mean, this is the abundance that there is, but the way in which we are creating extreme poverty, extreme precarity, extreme injustices, I mean, systemic violence, and how the technological mediation enables that is continuing to enable that is maddening. Thank you, Marielle, for coming. Thank you for your word and for coming. Any other question? Yes, Kai. Thank you, Lee, for your question.
Hi. Oh, this is really great. And Lee made me think about something that is specific to my interests when Lee asked you about values. So I want to take the road of the hopeful, because you speak of the dichotomy, and I think in terms of AI, our dichotomy is hopeful and hopeless. I say that because now I know at WITS, students can use AI even in dissertations. So in their PhD dissertations, as long as they declare it, and it's not supposed to be used as a conceptual tool per se, but as a thinking partner. Now, you spoke about, I thought, which was really very key. You said that you can't blame children or learners because education prior to ChatGPT was designed in a new liberal framework that trains children or trains learners how to respond to prompts. So if I'm to try and think through a hopeful format and think through a new pedagogical approach, how can we use good AI, or in what ways can we use good AI, for example, as a thought partner, not as a cognitive dumping ground? And if I look at South Africa specifically, where there is need for a new pedagogical approach, since we have been using a constructivist learning approach since the new dispensation, and the need for a new approach, which government is speaking about, especially now with the government introducing the Bella Act, the Basic Education Laws Act, which speaks to, for example, children being taught in their mother tongue continuously up until a particular grade. So there is a new pedagogical approach. And that new pedagogical approach, I would even argue, has to go back to the Constitution in terms of the ethic of care. I'm being a little bit long-winded because I'm actually thinking this through as I ask the question to you. So in the Constitution, though Ubuntu is not mentioned as a concept, it is implicit in the Constitution. And if we use, I'm jumping off from Lee's point in terms of values, what are the values of Ubuntu that we can use in this new pedagogy or this new pedagogical approach that can position AI in a good stead? I'm trying to find the hopeful. So I'm going to put that out to you as I don't want to overtalk my question, but are you understanding what I'm trying to ask? And you're the expert.
Oh my goodness, I am not the expert. I am totally always very more inspired when we are in conversation. So, we are
But you
all,
make us think. You make us think, Anaïs, and I'm really grateful for that. So,
that's the
and
best
Lee's
compliment.
oh, you make us think. Listen, on a day like today, it's hot for us to be sitting here at 4 o'clock and I'm properly dressed. This is an accomplishment. I've got on a jacket. I've got on earrings. I just didn't put my lipstick on. So yes, we
Yes,
show up for you because we love you. So over to you, Anaïs. Thank you.
thank you. So sweet. Thank you, Kai. Um, I think you are asking one of the questions that is central to the future of knowledge, of relationship, of justice, I will say of happiness, of thriving through life with the possibility to enjoying as opposed to just surviving, which is how do we accept that we depend on technology, but this dependence is not equal to everyone, whether it's at the level of the individual or the level of a region or the level of a country, especially given the instrumentalization of technology in the colonial continuum of dependency to those infrastructure. That was the first seminar we talked about. But while we acknowledge the dependency, how do we have the discipline? Which, when I say discipline, I always say discipline is self-love. Huh? Love for ourselves, love for our loved ones, love for the next generation, love for the resources. When I say discipline, I say self-love. Huh? How do we have the discipline while acknowledging the dependency to create different tools? The chat GPT that is being used to write dissertation cannot, by design and function, be a thought partner. Because yes, it will, for 1 or 2 prompts, it will remind you tomorrow, 1, 2 more prompt, it will learn from your weaknesses, it will emphasize your weaknesses, it will create further dependency that will further de-skilling, further increase your de-skilling. So we cannot adopt the technologies that are by design making us hooked on dopamine, whether it's Instagram, or dependent on an emotional support, if it's ChatGPT for teens who are isolated because their parents are facing difficult situations that are increased by gender, class, race, abilities. I mean, you name it. We are coming back to the same categories. So I really believe that there is a need to acknowledge that we are dependent, but that dependency, we need to be careful and we need to take care of it. Meaning we need to be caring for what that dependency does to us and to others. In another pieces of writing, I try to say we need an ethics beyond the ethics of dirty care. Because right now, AI is producing an ethics of dirty care. Who pays the prices of AI being deployed? Who pays attention to try to resist the harms? Who has to navigate the constant updates and the speed and the complexity to just make sense of daily life? Sometimes the administrative deployment of society that is now using AI is making your appeal for a grant or a recourse to access to food much more difficult, because now it's an algorithm who decides whether you get it or not. And not only in China. I have many flies because there are cows just by the house, and it's a bit warm, so they're like trying to get in. So I think this is the conundrum. Yes, I depend on my computer to be able to connect with you, but I have to have the self-discipline, which is also the self-love, to cultivate the ambivalent power of that technology that we talked about in the seminar two. There is Shinta, who also, and maybe someone else I didn't see. Hi, Shinta.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for this seminar. I missed the others, so I might be asking a question that was asked. I couldn't come before, but I will watch the but I guess my question is also connected to what you're saying just now. It's like, can we have an ethical AI in a very unethical system? I mean, it's part of it. The AI that is created now is created by the same actors that have kind of been profiting. So I don't think they can create anything better. If anything better came up, they probably wouldn't want to create it. They want to create. And so I think there is a lot more I feel like the kind of alienation and dispossession that kind of started at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution is only just being, I mean, you talk about the the way that the data is harvested, whether it is Elon Musk creating that new Wikipedia, which is AI, because now nobody is going to be generating that. Whether it is in terms of when you go uh, on your search engine now, it's AI generated information. So you're not reading, the chances of reading what other people have created is even less. And if you think in academia, I was at a writing retreat and somebody was talking to us about how to publish quickly, and they were saying, just put it in the in the one of the AIs that kind of summarizes articles and whatever, and then that will be your first part, and then you can write very quickly. So I think we are also almost, and I think my question is around agency, our agency as people, because we are also kind of helpless. And if there's something that is going to make publishing quicker possible, then we are taking it, because what else are we supposed to do? So, and I think it's like it's a domino effect that affects everywhere. And there's this tendency, there's this kind of harvesting of more, like labor and productivity from us. So, which means that even in terms of like, am I going to go to the store, or am I going to order whatever online, or am I, because there's less time? So I guess for me, I don't, and then there's the whole funding that is going into AGI, is it artificial general intelligence, that is being hyped. And I don't find any hope, except maybe once the jobs are so precarious that we have no other option but to revolt, maybe. But I don't know. When you talk about agents, especially of the individuals in the system, I feel like we have very limited agency, and maybe you can, yeah. Anyway, I'll stop there. I hope that you can find a question in there somewhere.
Thank you, Shinta, because I feel like you have summarized a lot of things that I spent a lot of hours sharing. So yes, I mean the title of the poster was towards a necessary insurrection, and I do believe there is a necessity to insurrect, meaning that um, um, not being satisfied with whatever leeway we still might have, because it's in the blur. We cannot leave it to the agency we still have. We cannot just leave it in hope that maybe something else gonna happen and we're gonna have a bit more agency, and then it's gonna be better a bit longer, and then maybe at some point it's not gonna be better, and then we're gonna have to act. I think that the ethical question is whether we care for really what truly matter for us in this lifetime every day, and that's why I said there is an ethic of dirty care, that they are making us perform the time we waste on doing things that really do not matter, like I was talking to the students, and I had like a little moment of venting, and I was like, you're not gonna regret the TikTok video you haven't seen when you are on taking your last breath, that is not something you're gonna regret, but you might regret the endless hours that are fueling us with dopamine shot. Yes, I think that it feels like we are in an epoch of helplessness. But I believe we have never had that many tools, that many resources, and for a lot of people, a lot of time. I mean, there is a possibility to combine. We also have the technology to be connected in ways that are different. I mean, I don't have WhatsApp. Is it super difficult not to have WhatsApp? Yes. The first 6 months, you're like, oh my goodness, I do not exist for the world. Nobody is contacting me. It's difficult. Of course, you love like hearing about here and that, and then people come get you where you are, and you stop giving your data to technologies that you know is fundamentally doing wrong to your people, to the planet. Boom, we have to make stances. So I believe we are ambivalent people. We are intermittently able to act in our power, intermittently able to tap into that which truly matter, but to have discipline, again, which means self-love, is to recognize when we are in that disposition and to do it. Because the more we are going to cultivate that which truly matters, the more ready we're going to be. Because if we were to have a revolt tomorrow, impossible. Look at the technology we use to just connect. We are doomed. They will get us like they went to get the protesters when they raided the houses. I mean, we're talking about dangerous things. If we were to talk about our ancestors who were resistant freedom fighters, civil rights activists, and we were telling them, we are at a table and we were telling them, yeah, we use technologies that are created and designed by the people we do actually want to fight, they would be like, what did we do wrong? What happened? What did we miss here? Like, they would be like, and it's the same. I feel like it's the same. So I agree, some people really do not know that there are limitations, and I agree there is an hegemony of technologies. That's why I talk about dependency. Of course, there is an hegemony, and of course, this is a problem. And Gramsci was one of the, militant writing from his jail cell saying, yes, hegemony is a tool of empire, and power dynamic starts in the culture. But what do we do now? I feel like it feels helpless, but to me it looks more lazy. And I'm saying that for myself as well. I'm saying that for myself because the technology is calling on my laziness. It's promoting my laziness. It's inviting me to be not doing the thing that matters to me. It's inviting for us to be, to put our brain on hold. So that's why I'm like, okay, like that's why I call the discipline, because I can see myself and the researchers in neurosciences are pretty amazing at showing how it's calling on the part of us that is lazy to act. Michelle, would you like to come?
Hi, sorry. I'll just speak to the last thing, which just sort of came up to my mind now. I think, especially in the past 2 years, given the genocide in Gaza, I've had to make a lot of decisions about my own technological use. I think I had started doing that in response to social media and how much time I'd been spending online, which was a little bit easier to do because it was about my own well-being. But in the past years, I've sort of been put in a position where it's actually about the well-being of the world and solidarity with people who live on the other side of the world. And once you start to do it, you actually realize how many non-technological resources you have around you. Or if you give up one digital resource, it doesn't mean that you have no digital resources to draw on in order to make life work. So I think it is possible, but you just have to be committed to the idea of living differently and living contrary to what the world is telling you, telling you in terms of how you should be living. And as I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking about how it is important for us to actually be more committed and to practice more agency, because there are children who are born into technology. They have no idea what it is to live without technology. And if we who know differently cannot be committed to making different choices, we cannot hope that in the future they might try to imagine a different world where they do look at what technology is doing to the world and choose differently, where they do think about what is good AI, what is bad AI, what are the ethics and values that are embedded, how can they make different choices. So I think we just need to be a bit more committed, I think, if anything different is to transpire.
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah, no, it does. And thank you so much for your testimony. It's true that at some point, when we are constantly surrounded by technologies that are being dumped into our life and absorbed and adopted by so many of our people, it feels very hard to say, I am going to withdraw. Because you feel like you are going to withdraw from things that you really need to be part and to belong. But it is actually necessary, because it makes much more sense to fulfill in action that which you fundamentally believe in, as opposed to comment on dit déjà? Ah merde. When you compromise, you compromise yourself. If you are on Twitter, you're compromising yourself with fascism. There is no other way. Whether because your alibi to make your consciousness happier is, well, but I have information. No, you are compromising with fascism. So you're letting fascism enter your daily life, sometimes at night, sometimes when you're eating something. It's taking your terrain. So of course you can, you again, we are complex being, we are intermittent, but there are things you can no longer compromise on. And as soon as you stop, then you realize that there are many other tools. And I'm really grateful to Michelle for stating this and sharing the testimony, because sometimes before we jumped, we believe it's impossible, and then we do it and we're like, oh, there are so many other. Okay, so many other. Okay. Stephen, thank you. Lee, thank you. Stephen and then Yasha. Yes.
Hi, Dr. Anaïs.
Hello.
Yes, okay. I had really, since we started having these sessions, I started trying to listen more about how the artificial intelligence works. But one of the shocking thing, maybe I was wrong, but I tried to follow it with documentaries now, what is happening, which was, I think it's very unethical when it comes to water, is they were saying that the artificial intelligence system does not work on the cloud as such. It uses physical infrastructure. And that infrastructure uses a lot of water. Just a simple function of artificial intelligence, it takes a lot of water. And also in areas that these structures are, it tends to compromise the water sources of those particular areas. So which is actually a danger. It's actually much more than just using it. It's actually how it actually functions. It's basic fundamental, its basic fundamentals in which it depends on. It's actually water, because they say that once you perform any act of artificial intelligence, those physical structures, they heat up so that they need to be cooled. So that when you're talking about ethics, I was thinking about that because I had actually a problem when I was thinking about that. And when I was watching that documentary, they were even trying to defend it without actually properly substantiating their defense, like saying that how do they protect the water, something like that. So it's a monster that have come on earth to dry us up in the areas in which they establish these structures that supports it, which I found it very terrifying, actually. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Stephen. It's the question of water resources being used to cool down data centers is abomination. It's water is needed for life on this planet. We are in a paradigm where 1/3 of the world population do not have access to safe drinking water at home. And what we see being deployed is infrastructures for internet usage that are now being duplicated with AI usage that is requiring so much water, as well as minerals. And those are putting the life of so many people on a deadline. There are many countries where the access to water is a daily struggle. And who pays the prices of that daily struggle? Most of the time, women, most of the time, children, most of the time, all the time, the poorest and more precarious agents of life. So that's why I started by saying AI do not need some new shiny ethics that is going to suddenly succeed where other ethics have failed. What is needed is action whose meaning is understood and grasped according to the direction where the society leads, as opposed to this kind of AI ethics. It's taking jobs. No, it's destroying life resources, life people, like non-human, human. We are in the sixth extension of species. And Trump is saying we are so good at tapping into the genome that soon we're going to create new species that will be able to adapt to climate, to the change of the environment. And you're like, this is a nightmare. So yes, when we look at that, it feels so helpless. But when we look at ourselves, we can take action every day. Because if tomorrow all of us decide to withdraw from Meta, just even for one day, imagine it's half of the world population. I would love a ceremony of ancestors were part of different freedom resistance, freedom fighters. What would they tell us? Given the technology, the network, the possibility, what would they tell us? I'm sure they won't have many ideas. We have so many powerful things we can do. But thank you, Stephen. On the water, yeah, it's each time you use AI, it's pumping water somewhere to cool down. There is no cloud that doesn't have a component that is anchored somewhere. You know, that is not possible. Yasha?
Hi, Anaïs. Hello, everyone. I took a few notes. I just gonna go through them. The first thing is that, like, it always bothers me that, like, AI is a very bad name for the technology, because then you'd think that there is some intelligence involved. I think a better name would be like an imitation machine or imitation engine, something like that, because then you would understand better how it could be used, because it cannot think for us. It can just imitate what already exists and just try to make something like that. So yeah, you can write a text and then ask it to turn it into another.
Yasha, we are losing you.
Format, because it can do that, but AI cannot think. It cannot. Hello, hello, hello.
Yes, we lost you for a few minutes,
Oh,
a few seconds.
yeah. So yeah, so I try to be quick. Yeah, so it does imitation, and I think the real reason that the elite, the rich and stuff like that, they like this technology is because can you hear me? Yeah, okay, yeah. So so it is a twofold thing. One is that they do not need to worry about the ethics of their action, actually, so that the AI is taking the decisions, so that they can say that we have no part in it, and the emphasis on the makes they do not need to worry about the ton of legal issues that they might face. And then the second part is that uh, they do not want change, and the AI, the imitation machine, does not create change. It just repeats what already exists, and it sort of solidifies their position. So this is something that they like, right? Because new ideas, new things to happen is always a threatening idea. So I think the the main parts that they are tending so much towards. Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we have a bit of difficulty hearing you. I turn off your video just to try to see if it's better for the.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it is
data.
unstable here. I don't know why, but yeah. So yeah, the other part is that the
Yeah, Yasha, it's maybe better to write down your comments.
artificial intelligence or this imitation machine is not actually or because making decisions.
Okay. No worries, it happens. We'll wait for your comments via the chat. If someone else would like to join for a comment or I think what Yasha said is very important is that the word imitation is probably better. So I think AI is not even a good technology. Writing code the traditional way is much more effective. Or I will rather say that AI is useless for that matter. I'll try to type quickly. Yes. The ideology of big data wants to make us believe that the more data being processed by the AI, the more accumulation of data to be processed to generate output from AI, the better. But to do what? To understand what? To achieve what? Why is it that we need AI more than we will need water? I mean, why is it we are in a world that is by function prioritizing the development of AI over the development of access to water sanitation? Yeah, it's very weak to perform decision making on AI. It's very weak to perform legal decision, economic decision, but it's very effective in increasing the violence of warfare. I mean, in the first weeks of the genocide, the Israeli Defense Force used AI to produce attacks at a rate that was unprecedented in the world of warfare. Using AI in the choosing of the targets. I think next time I will talk about AI in warfare because we haven't really touched on that yet. Just a few things, and it's very important to understand why when Michelle is sharing the fact that they refuse to use data platforms that are harvesting behavioral data such as Meta or Twitter or using different ways of communication, it has real implication on the ground for the battlefield, whether it's during time of warfare or during time of protest. So it's very important to acknowledge that we have the capacity to choose which network we use, which platform we use, and all of that. So yes, Yasha, you are an engineer, a programmer, and you know this technology is doomed to not perform well, because believing that we can produce decision with agent deprived of thoughts, like in the case of Sophia, then it is really a form of unlearning from history. And that's the ideology of technoscientists, that will put technological progress prior to anything, prior to any other progress, whether it's schooling, whether it's equal rights, whether it's justice, whether it's education, whether it's access to water, to sanitation, to health. So I think that the hopeless lies in the daily acts that we can choose to perform, not in the big, scary ideological horizon. Because as we discussed at some point in this seminar, and I will close here, is that a technology function not only in the environment, physical environment, it also function in our imagination. So the more we're gonna invent and discuss alternative technologies, the more we're gonna believe in a future where technology can be developed and deployed and designed for the better good. Last comment? Yes, Kai.
I know. I always think in terms of parents with children. It reminds me of, there was a piece in the news lately of a young boy that used AI, ChatGPT, as his therapist, and ended up taking his life. And the father, who was very brave, shared that, I think with Congress, it was somewhere in the US after, in terms of the whole, it was actually horrific. And I feel that human beings, or let me say this human being, I love a good prescription. You know, it gives me a sense of, okay, I have control. So I would pose to you, Anaïs, if you can offer a kind of broad, and you've said it in many ways, but I guess I want to enumerate it, a broad kind of prescription for managing AI addiction or AI introduction or use with children. You said something earlier that I wrote down as mindfulness. So one of the things that I do, and that's because you're our writing coach, so I follow what you say. So people need to get you, because they don't know the gifts that you bring to us. So what I do is when I'm eating, I hide my phone. So it's very mindful eating. When I'm writing, I hide my phone so I can't see it. So do you have just a few points in terms of a basic prescription that you can share in terms of either managing AI addiction or managing the engagement that parents have to deal with, especially parents of children like 12 that have cell phones or tablets and teenagers. So again, I'm putting it back on you. And I'm going to call you the expert because you're an expert. Please.
Thank you. I will try. Regarding if you're an adult and you feel like, oh, yeah, Yes. I mean, building on what I just read from Victoria's comment, thank you, Victoria, and building on what you ask, Kai, you know, if we take a day as like a short version of one's life, what do you want to do in your day? There are things you have to do. There are things that you have to address. There are things that you must respond to. There are things that you're gonna have to be responsible for. But in that, if you fill out all the blank in between by being on your phone as an escape mechanism for the next thing that is gonna be falling on your shoulder, then this is your life. And the technology is by design calling your attention. So when you do eat and you have a moment to breathe, then you have your phone. Then when you do wait for transport, instead of looking at the bird that is just right here and giving you like just a 3 second of a mind space, that is a necessary step for inventing anything. You take your phone. If the first thing you do in the morning, first thing you do at night is your phone, then all of which that was time for the spiritual life of your mind, it's being eaten. So I will say what is important is that if you want to be a free thinker, if you want to act on values that matters to you, then all those moments are important to reclaim. And if you are a parent, you're responsible for the garbage that your kids are going to be exposed to. It's difficult to say because a lot of us are completely unable to do anything, because by design the technology was created so it is in between you and your kid. That problem is becoming something that is a problem between you and your kid, and it's becoming the start of fights. It's becoming the start of anger. It's the beginning of like a daily struggle to regulate the consumption. So I do not believe that it is you to be responsible to make them be more less exposed, but it is you to be responsible to change the parameters of those phones that are really eating people's brain. So for instance, if you give your kids an hour of screen time, you have to give another parameter to that screen time, not only a temporal, but like, okay, you have an hour. I want you to watch one episode that is longer than 40 minutes, not 150 shorts that are eating up people's brain and attention. So again, you have to give something else than parameters that are about time and about content. There are apps that helps. There are tricks that helps. One trick is to plug your phone when you are at home. So it's no longer a mobile phone, it's a home phone. to have a place in the house where the phones are, and it's for everybody. All the phones are in one place. So your kids are not watching you being plugged on your phone all the time. That if you are in a conversation, then you are in a conversation on the phone, but you're not multitasking, because that's something that for a kid to watch the mom, the dad being constantly multitasking, that it means that they get just a fraction of an attention. And it means that they get a fraction of the value that they represent. So, I mean, there is also the rule that between 0 and 3, no screen. Between 3 and 6, it's screen time with the kid, not alone. From 6 to 9, it's independent, but you choose the content and you choose the when and the how. And then from 9 to 12 is a bit of agency, but it's supervised, but you don't have to be in the room watching. Another thing is to try to have a date night where no one is taking a picture, no matter what happens. Another date night where it's a game night where there are no screens at all involved. And you just, okay, Wednesday night, no screen at all. No TV, no tablet, no computer, no cell phones, no nothing. Board game, whatever, you do whatever, just no screens. So having this rituals of reclaiming spaces where you are together without screens, like please do not put screens in between you and your loved ones. We have so much data from neuroscientists that shows that it's such a degradation of your relationship. If you're having a date, don't put your phone on the table. Even if you're not on the phone, that person in front of you will feel less valued by you. So there are many things that we can reclaim, and deciding, if you're going on a family trip for the weekend, one of the parents can be the responsible phone holder, and no one else needs the phone because you guys are together. So having those curated little trip, whether it's a night during the week, whether it's a morning during the weekend, where it's like, okay, and it makes you feel so much better. Because again, we know it has a detrimental, it's to the detriment of your psychic well-being.
Oh, that was awesome.
Okay, I might need to do a short with just that then. Okay. Any other question? Any other comments? Thank you for asking this.
No, you're welcome. We've got 2 minutes, well, a few. If no one has any other comments, this was so great that I would challenge everyone that's here for the next session, invite 5 other people. So without putting anyone on the spot, my daughter-in-law is online. She's
Oh.
anonymous, and it was the last question was for my granddaughter. So I'm very grateful for what you've just shared, Anaïs. It really means a lot. This was a great session. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the Johannesburg Institute for Advanced Study for hosting this seminar series. Thank you to Zanele, Stefan, Victoria from the team for coming up and supporting the work, and allowing the work, and Jaime, thank you for joining. One of my very, very first students from very back then. I don't know if you're still in Brazil. I don't know where you are in the world, but please be in touch, email me or something. I will be happy to know how you are doing. And everyone, thank you, Shinta, for your question. Thank you, Donat. Thank you, Michelle, for your testimony. And thank you, everyone. Yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And we have 2 more seminars. And I will keep in mind the hopeless and the action-oriented, what we can do. Yes. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Michelle.
Bye. Great
Bye.
stuff. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.